So life before I was diagnosed with PBC was busy. My mum actually had PBC, so I knew about liver disease, and she was very well managed. So it didn't really affect my mum or us as children or our lifestyle or anything. So the first signs for me before diagnosis was I started itching. Because I was on farm a lot with my work, I always had something to blame it on. There was always a reason that I could be itching. I kind of ignored it for as much as I could, tried different creams and things and changed my detergents at home, cut out food groups like garlic or tomato, thinking it might be an allergy. And my mum actually turned around and said, I'd like you to go get a blood test because itching is a sign of liver disease. And because I have an autoimmune liver disease, I think it's wise that we get you checked out as well. So I did. I went and had a blood test. And then that evening, unexpectedly, I got a phone call saying they were sending an ambulance. They needed to get me into hospital. They thought there was a problem with my gallbladder. So after some investigations, scans, blood tests, and medical history from my mum who was with me, I was diagnosed with primary biliary cholangitis. To find out that I had PBC was actually okay because I'd grown up with my mum having PBC, and she was taking this magic pill, deoxycholic acid, every single day, and she would go to her clinic once a year, and everything was okay. She lived a very normal life and could do anything that anybody else was doing. So although it was a bit of a shock because we didn't believe it and we don't believe it scientifically to be a genetic disease, I was okay about it because I assumed I would have the same journey that my mum had, and I would start taking this medication and life would resume as normal. So I was diagnosed when I was 37 in 2020, and very quickly it was apparent that the itching was getting worse. I was becoming fatigued, forgetful, and there was more symptoms that I was suffering with already, but hadn't realised until I'd heard about them that actually, oh yes, there was all this connection to PBC or an autoimmune liver disease. With my bloods declining, even though I was taking the medication, I found myself in hospital an awful lot more. We carried on and did a liver biopsy to see if there was a crossover with any other autoimmune disease, which is very usual and normal actually, which I didn't expect. Before we knew it, we got to 2022 and they were mentioning liver transplant to me. They said that I was going into failure, and then everything just seemed to speed up from that point. We went forward with an assessment for transplant around about mid-year, and then by the October, I got my call to say that a match had been found. So it's really difficult waiting for a liver transplant. You don't know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen. You have to have a bag packed. You can't go too far from your home. There's so many restrictions placed on you, but yet you still never know when the phone's going to ring. It really is a strange kind of second world to live in and be in. And the whole time, if you look like you're not poorly, it's quite hard for other people to understand what's going on in this new world that's formed. And then suddenly you see no caller ID on your phone and you think, gosh, this could be it. And you get told there's a potential match and they're going to send an ambulance to get you to the hospital as quickly as possible. And then you arrive at the hospital and you still don't know at this point whether it's going to go ahead or not. So the roller coaster that comes with that is huge, and it just felt like a really strange, surreal situation. But to know that you could be saved and someone is having the worst time, like the family are having the worst time because their loved one has passed away, but at the same time they've allowed their wishes to continue on and give life to somebody else. It gives you warmth and hope. So I had my transplants, and recovery is long. It's heavy. You can never be prepared for it, and unless you've been through it, you'll never understand it. You can get to a point where you're walking and you're about, and you may be able to start phasing back at work, and people think that's it, you're done, you're cured. And really, ultimately, that's definitely not the case. Once the liver that's been damaged is removed and a donor liver is being put in, that autoimmune can waken up again and it can start a fresh attack, which is what happened to me. You've had your transplant and you're so grateful every single day, and you just think of your donor and their family, and then suddenly you hear things are declining again, and it's quite the hit you don't expect, especially so soon. So as much as I returned to a level of normal, or a new normal, if you like, I suddenly found myself back in the same position where I was in hospital a lot, and they started to talk about a second transplant. So leading up to my second transplant, the decline actually was much quicker than the first, and my symptoms were slightly different. My PBC, in effect, woke up and it started to attack again. But my body, being a young transplant recipient, also figured out a way to make the antibodies against the donor liver. So there was like a dual attack going on. So I had what they call an antibody-mediated rejection, which is a slightly different type of rejection that you can't control with medication. So there was these two elements that were happening at once, which made the whole process extremely difficult. And at one point we were talking about transplant potentially being in 2 to 3 years' time. And then suddenly I was being expedited and I was back at my transplant unit and we were being assessed as an inpatient for the second transplant and for it to be urgent. I had my second transplant on Christmas Day in 2024, which is, it's a strange one because people automatically will go, "This is the best Christmas present ever," and it is. I had my life saved on Christmas Day. You just don't think it's even happening. But of course, hospitals don't stop. Disease doesn't stop, and sadly, death doesn't stop either. And again, through someone's hard time was, my life-giving, and I was able to see, the next chapter through, and that's how I'm here today, thanks once again to organ donors. Second transplants are different to the first. And you have those emotional ties now to two families. I've also got a lovely relationship with my first donor's family. We got in touch and we've been in touch ever since. And I found it really difficult to tell them that I needed a second transplant because I felt like I was putting them through a grieving process once again. But actually, they framed it really lovely. His mum framed it really, she actually helped me again. And she framed it in such a lovely way that her son, Georgie, gave me the stepping stones to get to that next part of life. It enabled me to sit in to what was happening to me, really take stock of it, be grateful every single day, and just work on what I could do and what I was in control of to help myself throughout the recovery. I've got this autoimmune disease, yet I've been saved twice and I've got absolutely amazing teams around me, fantastic friends and the best family I could wish for. So because of all of those things and keeping a really positive mindset and staying grateful and grounded to everything that's going on in my life. I remember when I first got diagnosed, I felt so alone. I didn't know anyone else of my age who was going through that kind of thing. And we have this massive community and we've all found each other. And although again, we've all got very different journeys, we've gone through something quite similar and we're able to talk to each other and lean on each other. And just going through that first transplant and that second transplant has given me the opportunity and the platform to be able to raise awareness, educate people, and to support others in the same situation. It's heavy. It's not just the transplant itself, it's the diagnosis and leading to transplant, multiple hospital visits, GP surgery visits, weekly blood tests. It's a lot. And very rarely do you live next door to your hospital. So it's the traveling, it's paying for parking, it's time off work, and the emotional side that comes with that, hearing that there's nothing that they can do to help their loved one. It's heavy and it's tough. I wanted to educate myself, so I looked online, as you naturally do, and thankfully the first place that came up was the British Liver Trust. On their website were patient stories, there was a nurse-led helpline, and they had social media as well, so I could look at what they were talking about and where they were signposting people to. For my first transplant, I registered to attend a monthly pre and post transplant call. And I really look forward to that every month. And sometimes an hour before, I'd be so tired and fatigued that I wouldn't want to get onto it. But then the minute I went onto that call, everything changed. And once you sat there for an hour, you can speak as little or as much as you want, listening to other people who are experiencing something similar, or they may be at a different part of their journey to what you are. So you kind of get an idea of what's to come, or you can help someone who's just been diagnosed. You come away from those situations really feeling like you're part of something, even though it's, we always say it's the club you never want to be part of. It then once you're in it, you'd never want to be out of it. And the British Liver Trust really put me into that space of safety, and I felt like I was supported.